In this last section, we're going to practice evaluating piecewise functions. So given f of x, here are three function values we'd like to find. First, let's start with f of 9. When you're evaluating a piecewise function, the first thing you have to decide is in which area of the domain does my input variable lie? And so here we're inputting the number 9, and notice that the number 9 is greater than 4. And so the rule that we'll be applying is f of x is equal to the square root of x. So to evaluate f of 9 would be equal to the square root of 9, or in other words, 3. Let's try another one. Next we'll do f of 0. So f of 0, when we look at where 0 falls in the domain, we can see that 0 is between -1 and 4. And so we'll be using this rule to evaluate. So f of 0 is equal to where our rule says no matter what the input is, the output is -2. Finally, let's find f of 4. Now we have to be careful with f of 4 because we notice that we see 4 in two areas of the domain. But notice that in neither is the input variable equal to 4. We know what to do if x is less than 4. We know what to do if x is greater than 4. But what happens if x is equal to 4? Notice that that is not in the domain of the function. So this is not in the domain. So we don't know what rule to apply. And so this cannot be done because 4 is not in the domain of the function. We'll try one more example. Given f of x, and let's find these three function values. So again, what we need to do is we need to decide in which area of the domain does our input variable lie. So f of 5 is certainly greater than 2. And so our rule says that f of x is equal to x. So f of 5 would be equal to 5. F of 0. If we look at what area in the domain 0 would lie, 0 is less than or equal to 1. And so the rule we would be applying is f of x is equal to x squared. So f of 0 would be equal to 0 squared, or in other words, 0. And finally, let's find f of 1. Now, notice that 1 appears in our domain in two places, in the first rule and in the second rule. But it's in the first rule that we have an equal sign. And so when our input value is 1, we'll be applying this first rule of x squared. So f of 1 would be equal to 1 squared, or in other words, 1.